This is lesson 1 in chapter 11, and this lesson's all about angles and line relationships. So there are a lot of vocab words today. You need to make sure that you understand what these words mean. These words will show up throughout the chapter, obviously on the test. So if you don't know what these words mean as I'm talking about them, if we're talking about a certain relationship, you won't know how to solve them then because of not understanding what the word is meaning. So the first one is when two lines intersect, they form two pairs of opposite angles called vertical angles. Vertical angles are congruent. So when you're looking at vertical angles, they're opposite angles formed when two lines intersect. So here's our two lines intersecting. Here's a set of opposite angles. Here's a set of opposite angles. Those are vertical, just as these are vertical. They're opposite angles formed from two intersecting lines. The other thing that they tell us is vertical angles are congruent. You can tell the two green angles are the exact same size. You can tell the two pink angles are the exact same size. Okay. Now again, normally you can't just tell by looking at angles. You can't go based off of that they look the same, but we know because these are vertical, they are exactly the same measure. The next one says, two angles that have the same vertex between them share a common side and do not overlap are called adjacent. So in our first example, angle 1 and angle 3 are adjacent to each other. They share a vertex, they share a common side, and they do not overlap. Okay? Here 5 and 6 are adjacent. Adjacent angles don't tell us anything about the angle measure. It's not like vertical where they're equal to each other. Okay? It just means that they're next to each other. The next one says, if the sum of the measures of two angles is 90 degrees, the angles are called complementary angles. So complementary means corner. Complementary corner, okay? So it makes a corner, makes a 90-degree angle when you add them up. So angle 7 plus the measure of angle 8, that's how you would read that, by the way. Measure of angle 7 plus the measure of angle 8 is 90 degrees. And then the last one is supplementary. If the sum of the measures of two angles, it could be more, by the way, than 2, is 180 degrees, the angles are called supplementary angles. Supplementary angles, we want to think of straight. So we have a straight line, we have a corner. Straight lines are 180 degrees, corners are 90 degrees. So here I have the measure of angle 9 plus the measure of angle 10 equals 180. The only difference between the two are what they are equal to at the end. The next part says, pairs of angles can be classified by their relationship to each other. A special case occurs when two lines intersect to form right angles. These lines are perpendicular lines. So notice, all of them are at a right angle. If this is 90 degrees, because of vertical, that means this is 90 degrees. Because of supplementary, it means this is 90 degrees. And then again, because of vertical, this would be 90 degrees. Okay? And here's the symbol we use. It's like an upside down T for perpendicular. It kind of helps you remember this is at a right angle. So that's what it means for perpendicular. So here's our first example, and in this example it's talking about that classify the relationship between x and y. Well, these two, when I put this angle and this angle together, that makes a straight line. Sorry, it was way too far up. When I put the yellow angle and the green angle together, it makes a straight line. When it makes a straight line, that means that they're going to be 180 degrees or supplementary. Okay? So we know they're supplementary, that's the relationship. Then it says, if the measure of angle y is 135, what would the measure of angle x be? Well, if we say 135 plus x, we know is going to equal 180. You guys know how to solve an equation like that. I'd subtract 135 on both sides, and I'd find that x is equal to 45 degrees, just like they have here. Okay? So here's our got it problem. It says angles R and S are complementary. They didn't give you a picture this time, but they told you what they should equal. If the measure of angle R is 65.3 degrees, what is the measure of angle S? Okay? On this one, since it's complementary, we're going to know that it's going to be equal to 90 degrees. So we have the measure of angle R, 65.3, plus the measure of angle S, and it's going to equal 90. So then we solve. We say subtract 65.3 on both sides, and S is equal to 24.7 degrees. So angle S is equal to 24.7. And to be more exact, you are the measure of angle S. Okay. Now we're starting a whole nother set of vocabulary terms. So here's this set. This set is actually 7th grade terms. The next set that we're learning are actually in the 8th grade standards. Okay. So it says, two lines in a plane that never intersect are called parallel lines. You guys already know that one. That one shouldn't be new. Then it says, a line that intersects two or more lines in a plane is called a transversal. So here we have our parallel lines. S and T are parallel. They are never going to touch. And then a line that intersects two or more other lines is a transversal. So that intersected those two parallel lines. Okay? It says when parallel lines are cut by a transversal, special pairs of angles are congruent. So here's these special angles that we're talking about. So there's kind of a lot here, but I guess first I want to talk about just which ones are equal, and then we'll talk about why they are equal. So I know angle 1, if I start with that one. I know that angle 3 is equal to it because you guys already know about vertical angles. These two are vertical. We have two lines that are intersecting, J and L, and the opposite angles are equal to each other. Okay? That also means that angle 2 and angle 4 are equal to each other. Now here's the case for down below when I'm trying to match up these angles with this set down here. So it says alternate interior angles are on the opposite sides of the transversal inside the parallel lines. So this would be inside the parallel lines, and then opposite sides of the transversal. So like 4 is on the left, 6 is on the right. So those two are going to be equal to each other. Then, just based off of the same information, inside the parallel lines, opposite sides, angle 3 and angle 5 would be equal to each other. Within this set, then, I know that 7 has to be equal to 5, and I know 6 has to be equal to 8. Okay? So alternate interior angles are saying that 3 and 5 are equal, 4 and 6 are equal. Alternate exterior is outside of the parallel lines. Opposites are equal. So 1 and 7 and 2 and 8. Okay? So we have alternate meaning opposite sides, interior means inside of parallel, exterior means outside of parallel. And then corresponding. Corresponding mean that they're in the same position. So if I look at this set of 4, 2 is in the top right. So the same position in the other set would be top right is 6. So 2 and 6 are corresponding. 3 and 7 are corresponding. 4 and 8 are corresponding. 1 and 5 are corresponding. Okay? And the thing to know about all of these is if it's one of these sets, that means they are equal to each other. So like if I know 1 and I'm trying to figure out 7, since these are alternate exterior, they are congruent. Whatever angle 1 is, angle 7 will be the exact same. So looking at example 2, it says, in the figure at the right, A is parallel to B, so these two lines we know are parallel, they'll never touch, and Q and R are transversals. They cut through those two parallel lines. Classify the relationship between angle 3 and angle 5. So this angle with this angle. I notice that they're both on the inside of the parallel lines, and they're opposite each other. That makes them alternate exterior angles. Since they're alternate exterior, that means they're congruent. They're equal to each other. So the next part says, if the measure of angle 1 is 120, so if that's 120 degrees, find the measure of angle 5 and the measure of angle 3. Well, I know that angle 1 and angle 5 are going to be corresponding angles. They're in the same position. This is the top left, okay? So they're going to be congruent. So this also is going to be 120 degrees. I know that angle 1 and angle 3 are vertical angles, so they have to be congruent. Or you could say angle 5 and angle 3 are alternate interior angles, so they have to be congruent. Okay? Either way, all three of those angles then are going to be 120. If we finished out this idea, we know this one is also 120 because it corresponds with 3. It's alternate exterior to angle 1. It's vertical to angle 5. Okay? So all of those are going to be equal. If they wanted to know something like angle 6 then, what you would have to think through is, well, I know right here that's a straight line. Straight lines are 180 degrees. So if I take 180 minus my 120 for angle 7, that means angle 6 would have to be 60 degrees. So if this one's 60, vertical angle would be 60, corresponding angle would be 60, alternate exterior would be 60. So if you were given one angle from your parallel lines cut by a transversal, you can figure out all the other angles as well. So got it. 2A says classify the relationship between angle 11 and angle 15. So we're talking this angle and that angle. Hopefully you were thinking in your head that those are corresponding. So that means they're congruent. Okay? So if the measure of angle 15 is 78.5, that means angle 11 is also 78.5. They then want angle 9, which is this angle. Since 9 is vertical to angle 11, it's going to be congruent as well. We also know that angle 13, because it's vertical to 15, would be that. Now if someone asked you to find the opposite angles, this 12, 10, 16, and 14, remember you can make a straight line, subtract the angle that you know from 180 to find those missing angles. Sometimes the angle pairs that we look at aren't one of the special pairs that we've talked about. So they're not vertical or supplementary or complementary or alternate interior or exterior corresponding because it's parallel lines with a transversal. So this is what we're talking about when it's not a specific type of relationship. So it says, in the figure at the right, the measure of angle ABD is 164 degrees. Find the measure of angle ABC and the measure of angle CBD. So just first of all, we need to make sure we know how to name these. The measure of angle ABD. So from A all the way over to D, this entire thing here is 164 degrees. We need to find the measure of angle ABC. So we want this section, and then we also want CBD. So then we also want this section. So we're taking that large one and breaking it up into the two angle parts. Okay? I know that this is 2x plus 23, and I know this is x. So I'm taking my two separate angles, that 2x plus 23, and I'm going to add it with that other angle, and I know that's going to equal 164. When I put the two small angles together, it makes that big angle. From there, you guys know how to solve an equation like that. So I'm going to combine my like terms. So 2x plus 1x is 3x plus 23 equals 164. Once we get to this point, we know we need to get rid of our constant first. So we have 164 minus 23, so 3x is equal to 141. From there we divide by our coefficient, and I get 47. Now the key here is to make sure you are answering what they're asking for. I know the measure of angle CBD is 47 degrees. Sorry, that C kind of got caught in that B. So CBD is 47. That's this angle, that's just x. If I want to also find this angle, so the measure of angle ABC, I have to plug x back in. So 2 times 47 plus 23 is going to be my other angle. And notice they've already done that for us. 2 times 47 plus 23 is 117 degrees. Now you can always double check yourself by saying, okay, my first angle plus my second angle should equal that big angle, and it did, so we know we're right on that one. So here's our last got it problem. It doesn't show a picture, but it gives enough information. It says angles RVT and UVW are vertical angles. So vertical angles, remember, we have two lines intersecting and they're going to be the opposite. So we know that this is going to be V, this could be R and T, so we have angle RVT, this angle right here, and then we could have angle UVW, this angle right here. Those are vertical angles, they're opposite angles. It says measure RVT, that angle is 3x, and UVW is 5x minus 36. So the first thing we need to do is find the value of x. So you need to think about what your angle pairs are. That's the first question you should always be asking yourself. Is there a special name for this set of angle pairs? These are vertical. Once you know what they are, think about what does that tell you. Does that tell you that they equal 90? Does it tell you that they equal 180? Does it tell you that they are equal to each other? Well, hopefully you remember vertical angles are equal to each other. So I know that those are going to be the exact same measurement. So we have 3x, this angle up here, is equal to 5x minus 36, this angle down here. Once we have our equation, we just solve. Minus 3x Oh, and I'm sorry, I did it the wrong way. If I would do it that way, notice we'd have nothing left over here. So I don't want to move it that direction. I want to move the 5x over to the other side so we keep something on both sides of the equation. So minus 5x, that cancels out. 3 minus 5 is going to be a negative 2x. And I have negative 36 on this side. Then I can divide by negative 2 on both sides and get x is equal to, and if you don't know this one, make sure you're plugging it in, and you'll see it's 18. So the first question just asks what is the value of x? X is 18. Now it wants us to find what's the measure of u, v, w. So let's plug it back in. 5 times this 18 minus 36. Okay, 5 times 18 minus 36 gives me 54 degrees. So the measure of angle UVW is 54 degrees. That means this will also be 54 degrees. Okay, and you can double check that by saying 3 times 18, and it should come out to be the same thing. And luckily it does, so we know we didn't make any mistakes there. Okay? So as you're working through your homework, please make sure that you're thinking through what is my angle pair, what does that tell me? And it might help to use highlighters to actually highlight the two angles that we're discussing, and that way you can tell easily, are they vertical, are they adjacent, are they maybe corresponding or alternate exterior, alternate interior? Are they complementary and make a corner? Are they supplementary and they make a straight angle? Okay? So those are all things that you need to be thinking through as you're working through this homework. Make sure you ask questions if you have any.